Hey, hello, and welcome. You have tuned in to Corporate Life is Hell. I'm really glad you guys have all joined today. The title, the idea behind the title of our show, Corporate Life is Hell, is that in our experience, anybody who's spent enough time climbing the ranks of corporate life has discovered somewhere along the line that corporate life can be hell. It's the premise of our show that it doesn't need to be that way, and that corporate life is typically corporate hell is typically the result of failures in leadership. And while it's easy to point the finger at leaders that we think are failing, there's only one leader that you can change, and that leader is you. So this show is for you, the leader, and how you can make a difference in the corporate world. So we've got a great show today. We have our fantastic guest named Brady Wilson. Brady is the author of a great book, Beyond Engagement, and we're going to be talking with Brady in a few moments. But first, I want to find out who else is here in the show with me. There is, first of all, you, the viewer. So I want to remind the viewers how you can interact with us. You're watching this in a Google Plus post, and in the comments of that post, you can post any question or any comment that you'd like, and we can bring it on screen and interact with it. So please leave your comments, ask us your questions, ask Brady questions when he comes on. And then you can also tweet your questions to us using the hashtag #CorporateLifeIsHell or hashtag #LiberatedLeadership. Either one, and we'll get those comments and we'll bring them on screen. And with that, I would really love to meet the panel. I have three wonderful folks joining me here today. Hello, panel. How are you guys?
Hey there.
Good, thanks, Mike.
All right. So let me go first to Carl. Carl, you're out there in Fort Collins, Colorado. How are you feeling today, Carl?
Well, not too bad. Actually, I'm a lot more relaxed than I have been for a few weeks because I've been in the middle of a promotion. So now I'm getting into, all right, that promotion is done, and I can get down and focus on the issue today, which is going to be a wonderful discussion.
What could be more relaxing than engaging with some great people on Corporate Life is Hell?
I got my coffee. I'm ready to go.
All right, cool. Thanks, Carl. And then, Chi, you're across the pond out there in London. How are you feeling today, Chi?
I'm good. The sun's out today, so I'm in a very good mood indeed.
That's the measure in London, whether or not the sun is shining.
Yeah, it's rained for 3 solid days, so.
Oh. Well, thank you, Chi. Thanks to the Chi fan. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And then lastly, Laura Jeminder. Hi, Laura. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. It's September and summer finally came to Wisconsin.
Doesn't it come every year?
It's on a heat wave. We're on a kick right now. 90s and real humid. It's fabulous.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm out here in Texas waiting for that to go away.
Send it my way.
Laura, thank you so much for joining. So we are going to bring on a fantastic guest in a moment. Before I do that, I want to ask you guys a question. Part of the topic for today is employee engagement. So the question is, what do you guys think of when you hear the term employee engagement?
Well, the thing that comes to mind for me is just the energy that people bring, the passion, the creative juices, all of that that they bring to their job on a sustained basis. I mean, we all have good days and bad days and everything, but what's the average? Are you able to keep your energy higher than normal, or are you sort of on the downhill slide?
I like that, Carl. I think it's going to fit well with our dialogue today, too.
Good.
Anybody else?
For me, it's an alignment of purpose and motivation. So when I see that, if I were in a company and I see that what the company is doing, it's something that I understand, I believe in, and and I want to contribute to, that's when I'm engaged. And when I'm like, well, what's going on? Then I think that's when I'm disengaged.
Yeah. We actually got a comment from one of our viewers. Heather Crafter says, employee engagement? Perhaps I think that means someone doing the job they were hired to do.
Well, yeah, but there's doing the job, and then there's doing the job with productivity and energy and direction and purpose and all of that fluffy stuff that goes underneath it. I mean, if your job is just to turn the crank and you know, I'm going to show up and I'm going to turn the crank 4,200 times today and then I'm done. Well, okay, but I want to be doing a lot more than that.
It's really about, you know, meaningful work and feeling valued and where input is encouraged, I think.
Yeah, me too. So for me personally, I think of two things. There's kind of two parallel threads there. The first one is all about emotional engagement, like, you know, to what degree am I emotionally invested in actually doing this work and having a sense of purpose and achievement. There's another definition of it, though, that I'm very familiar with because of the work that I've done in my career, which is capital E, employee engagement, which is when companies start to look at it as this idea that they need to manage and change. And what I'm excited about with Brady today is that his book and his ideas, I think, address that side of it as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest for today. And Laura, I'm going to ask you to take care of bringing Brady into the room while I do a little bit of housekeeping right now, which is to introduce Brady.
Yeah, good graphic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So as I mentioned, Brady Wilson is the co-founder of Juice Inc. Brady is undoubtedly the embodiment of focused energy. And I have to tell you that when I met Brady for the first time, I had this sudden urge to get up off the couch and start training for a marathon. So as co-founder of Juice Inc., Brady's vision is to create a world where businesses pulsate with creative energy. He's the author of 4 books, including his latest book, which is Beyond Engagement, a brain-based approach that blends the engagement managers want with the energy employees need. Please give a warm welcome to our first guest on the show, Brady Wilson.
Hey, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
It took me a moment to get to that applause, but
it's very important, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes, you deserve it, and I wanted to make sure you had it. How are you doing today, Brady?
I'm fabulous. I'm in Canada, and like Laura, we are actually having a bit of a warm spell right in September here, when it usually would be crisp and cool. It is. We're up in the 80s and 90s as well, so it's kind of strange, but it's a lovely feeling.
That's wonderful. I'm always happy to send some of the heat from Texas up to north. Everybody needs. So Brady, we are excited to talk about engagement and even what's beyond engagement, that brings me to my first question. My first sort of obvious question from the book title is, what is it that's out there beyond engagement?
Right. For the last 20 years, we've been working with senior teams in big organizations who got on the bandwagon, employee engagement. They did the surveys, they're doing the town halls, etc. And often what has happened is things started to plateau. You know, at the beginning, the first time you do the survey and you respond to it, you take some action, employees are saying, thank you so much, you listened to us, and this is going to make a difference. But what we've seen is right across the board, things are plateauing and actually starting to dip. And employees have this deep level of cynicism that anything meaningful is going to happen as a result of the employee engagement process or the survey. So what we're seeing over the last decade or so are massive amounts of employees and managers who are engaged, but they are depleted. They are completely committed, loyal, dedicated, coming in early, staying late, but they are exhausted beyond measure. And so clearly there is something beyond engagement that we have to be looking at.
Yeah, it's something beyond effort, right?
Yeah.
If you measure engagement purely by effort, well, shoot, people are engaged like crazy. They're working late. They're working 60 hours a week, and we're talking about something beyond that, aren't we?
Well, it's truly, Carl and she and Laura all pointed to some of those things that can make engagement sustainable that are beyond just the effort piece. The issue is, for some reason in our journey of engagement, we took on a definition of engagement that was about effort. So it was dedication, commitment, loyalty, come in early, stay late, say good things about the company, and stay with the company. But what we lost was vitality, resilience, passion, that ability to get into and be in a state of flow. These are the things that make engagement sustainable. And so we know that it takes a massive amount of energy to sustain engagement. We have to have both.
Mm. Yeah, so a lot of it is really about what tools do you have to build and sustain the energy then that it's going to take to really perform at a higher level, enjoy what you do, all that kind of stuff.
Very true. And I would say one of the tools, and it's not going to sound like a tool, Carl, but it is a mind shift of saying, let's not manage engagement, let's manage energy. Now, that sounds like dualism, you know, it's either this or that. But what we found is if you manage energy, you will get engagement as well. But the opposite is not true. And so if a manager, for instance, after the survey results come in, really starts burrowing in and decides, I've got to turn these engagement scores around, and that starts to project itself through his or her approach to the team or the department, I got some news for that manager. Employees don't care about engagement scores. Employees, they don't care about whether the organization is on the top 50 list. What they care about is their lived experience at work, whether they have the autonomy to take some risks and make a difference and prove themselves, whether they have that sense, you know, I think it was Laura was saying that they feel valued, that their input is encouraged, and she was talking about this whole sense of the alignment of purpose and meaning and contribution and legacy. Well, if a manager can shift from managing scores and managing engagement to managing people's lived experience at work, we can actually get the engagement we're looking for. But in the process, we're unlocking this bottled up source of sustainability, which is the energy level of the employee.
So Brady, that opens up an interesting question. I mean, using the word manage in this case is really tough because we'd like to think of manage as you have some knobs you can turn that change the results.
Like control.
Right. Yeah, so it's control-based thing. And, you know, I can't control people's engagement. I can encourage it, I can support it, you know, whatever, but I can't really control it, and therefore people might think that I can't really manage it. Isn't the same thing true of energy? When I'm talking about the energy of others, I can't really control that.
Well, you've really brought up a great point, because what we're doing with leaders across the world is helping them shift from parenting to partnering. And that shift right there says that two of us are going to stand for each other's success. I don't need to fix things for you, but what we can do is we can partner together to build the conditions in which you can feel energized. What we're doing is we're trying to shift the social contract, which used to be, you pay me so much and you expect me to come and work this many hours and I do this task, and for that I expect you to create this amazing energized environment for me, an engaged environment. We're saying, as Mike was alluding to, that sort of dualism of, you know, the employee does this and the company does this, well, that's always a stretch, right? We know that the employee and the manager together need to own the conditions and build the conditions in which the employee can be energized. And so, Carl, I think you brought up a great point. When I say manage energy, we're really talking about let's co-create the conditions where this person could be as energized as possible.
Yeah, I love that chapter.
In which context can you create such a sort of like a partnership? I mean, how would it work in practice, for example, an example or something like that?
What a great.
Where have you seen that?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example, and you know, stories are always the best.
Yeah.
So we've got a director actually, and he inherited a team, and on that team there was one person who was a business analyst, and the VP said to this director, there have been a lot of absenteeism issues. We know there's some stress going on at home. You have complete freedom, if you want, to free up this person's future. A euphemism for can them, right, or sack them. Now, this business director started looking at this person, and wow, she was so sharp. And when she was on her game, highly productive, he got into conversations with her, and he said, I don't need to know what's going on in your personal life, but I know that there's some stuff. I just need you to know I'm in your corner. What can we do to take some stuff off your plate? Now, it might sound good so far, but every time they had that conversation, it devolved into this frustrating outcome. He went through the process, the Beyond Engagement process, which is all about getting to what matters most for this person. He started asking those questions in an open-ended way, and she said, I just want to feel like I'm a high performer, like I'm highly productive. For me, that's not going to happen at home right now. So there's only one place for me that's going to happen. It's at work. But every time you meet with me, you take challenges away. I want more challenges at work. So he started giving her more and more challenges. She hit it out of the park every single time. I've got a letter from her written that's talking about she went on to become a superstar. She was nominated for the Bravo Award for high performers. Subsequently, she has been elevated to a management position. She was a rock star, but what was happening was he was approaching her as if he was a parent. I need to take some stuff off your plate, without understanding that what really energized her was a sense of significance and achievement and progress and making things happen. And so I think that could be an example that says shifting from partnering, that condescending, patronizing, I need to take stuff off your plate, to what really matters to you and what is it that energizes you in your work experience. And he found out it was achievement and progress.
That's a powerful shift.
From the manager's perspective, for him to be able to come up with a conversation like that. I mean, it's not just a matter of being told by someone to talk to your employee in a different way, right? Something else needs to shift at a deeper level for the manager to be able to.
Well,
relationships like this too.
The big work that we are doing, and this is maybe beyond the scope of what we're doing today, but you bring up a great point, and that is, we are colonialists to our core. We will colonize people like we have for the history of the world. We will basically suppress their value system, and we will come and say, I know a better way. Well, this shows up in management and leadership all over the place. And so this shift towards truly seeing our employees as partners and standing for their success, it is a major shift in our way of being. But when it happens, there is a residue of value and respect and honor, and it actually calls the employee to a higher level of contribution in the environment, in the ecosystem.
Because if I know you have my back, you have my loyalty.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of goodwill that is evoked, right?
Yep, really caring about your employees.
Yeah.
If I could put it as simply as possible, it's a sense of connection. It's feeling connected to the other human being versus one person being trying to control or change the other person.
Yes, and Mike, I would say that where we slip into parenting, there is no leader who woke up this morning eating their cornflakes thinking, I want to make my employees feel like children. That's not what's happening. But when the stakes are high, when we feel responsible, when timelines are tight, we're inundated with information, change is everywhere, what happens is we feel that tension and we slip into either the over-accommodating, nurturing parent, which is I'll take the monkey on my own back and fix it for you, or the over-authoritative, domineering, overpowering parenting, which is just do it because I told you so. It's very difficult for us to stand in the middle of the tension and be that partner, because everything inside of our brain, it is intimidated and feels insecure when we have to share responsibility with another human being.
It's a vulnerable act.
It is. It really is.
This sounds a little bit different than the concept of servant leadership, because you're really, servant leadership kind of puts you in a subservient role, and this is much more of a, I like the partnership concept.
Well, I love Robert Greenleaf. I love what he did. I love the concept of shifting from that very hierarchical, I will order you what to do, to I am here to serve you and to help you be all that you can become. But the issue with that, I find, is that for the person who is the rescuer, for the person who has that gene of needing to patronize or condescend, servant leadership can easily be a cloak that you put on that you believe is serving employees, but the message underneath is, I need to do this for you.
It could be potentially paternalistic and taking responsibility away.
That's exactly it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I want to remind everybody watching, you are watching Corporate Life is Hell, and you have the ability to interact with us by posting a comment on Google+, or please tweet us using the hashtag Corporate Life is Hell or Liberated Leadership. We do have a couple of tweets or a couple of questions right now. One of them comes from Rita Smith. She says, so how do you measure employee energy? I suppose if measuring employee engagement has some downsides, is there an alternative around measuring energy?
Right. So we know that we want to we want to measure engagement. We want to measure enablement, as the Hay Group, really points out, and we want some sort of an energy construct as well. So what we've done over the past 20 years is we've tried to identify, and by the way, this is a difficult piece of work, and it's kind of it's a little bit abstruse and ethereal, but such is the nature of human energy, right? But what we know is that when human beings are experiencing profound connection with their coworkers, with their manager, with their leaders, with their customers, clients, or patients, that connection, there's something that happens to their energy level. And we can actually, it's not ethereal, you can map it electromagnetically inside a person. What happens when we experience connection, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin are released, and those hormones have a profound effect inside of us. So if we have questions in our survey that ask a person, do you feel like you are experiencing a profound connection with your coworkers, with your boss, with your customers? If they can answer yes emphatically to that, 5 out of 5, we know that is one indicator that will probably be a good measurement of their energy. Meaningful work, contribution, legacy, purpose. If people are feeling that the work that they are doing really matters and it's having making a difference, we know that releases energy. When people come up with an insight and they are illuminated to see something in a different way, there is a physical jolt of energy that happens inside of their brain. So if we ask questions, does your manager ask the types of questions that allow you to come up with an insight? And if they can answer yes to that, if people feel like they have the freedom and autonomy and decision-making latitude to take chances and risks and make things happen, we know that releases energy. So we have several dimensions that we measure that we're, at this point now, after 20 years, we're very confident that if a CEO and her leadership team are looking at the dashboard and saying, we want to manage or we want to measure engagement, we want to measure enablement, and we want to measure energy as well, we're very confident now that we can give them an energy index that they can count on.
Yeah. So that's where the brain-based part of the title comes from, right? Is that it's about stuff that has been shown to have an actual difference in people's mind and body, not just the theory that, oh, well, if you have a sense of purpose, then you'll have energy. Airy-fairy stuff, but, actual brain research, is that?
That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
I want to make a plug for your book right here, Brady. I of course, went out and bought the book, and I am an amateur neuroscientist. I studied psychology and the human memory and information processing when I was in undergraduate, and so I love this stuff. And my favorite part about your book is that every single chapter starts with a research-based insight into our neuroscience and how we process the world and how we interact and what's going on when we're connecting with another and what's going on when we're disconnected. So yeah, that's my plug for the brain-based approach. Is very alive and well in your book.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And
I forgot to hold it up here.
Could I ask?
Everybody get a
Sorry.
copy.
Gee.
So if from the survey you get a low score in terms of generating energy in the employees, do you then have a manual for people to somehow work on that? Like, do they then just look at the question and say, oh, your manager, you should ask more questions that generate insight, and oh, you should do more of that? Or is there like a more kind of like detailed guidelines where you help a company achieve more engagement or energy in employees?
Certainly. And what we're doing, Chi, is we're not saying take a survey sabbatical. There's a part of me that wishes I could say that. But what we are saying is that ensure that the frequency with which you do surveys makes sense inside the employee's world. If there are a lot of issues that have been raised that have not yet been addressed, it is going to be, you're only going to increase that chasm of the belief, the sense of cynicism that employees have if you do another one the following year. So what we say is, let's do one-on-one energy checks, and let's do team energy checks. And we just have such a simple process of a manager or a leader sitting with an employee, having a quality conversation about what is it that is energizing you, what is it that's depleting you, and could we work as partners to find out how we reduce the depletion and how we generate more energy together. So that one-on-one energy check, I will tell you, it is profoundly changing organizations. And if people go onto our website and see some of the case studies, they'll see that. The team energy check, equally, it takes the undiscussables and makes them discussable in terms of how we can serve each other in ways that will generate more team energy. So we're saying, let's shift our reliance from the machinery of the engagement survey to a more frequent and a cadence that makes more sense inside the employee's world. These regular conversations that simply get at how can you and I partner so that you can experience more energy. Chi, is that answering your question?
Yeah. Okay, so you don't actually have like a formula for people to go through when they see certain scores. It's more like, okay, just have more one-on-one engagement, have more of those conversations.
Very much so. Very much so. It's not that we don't use those data from the survey in terms of the energy construct. They can truly be helpful for us, but ultimately we want to know what is the lived experience of the employee in this moment. That's really that's the leading indicator there.
That's an enormous strength of your model, I think. Having been responsible for employee engagement surveys at a couple of different companies and having gone through this process of cascading action planning and stirring up all of these task forces, I know firsthand that they can actually cause a lot more harm than good when you generate all this extra work and you put plans in place and then everybody, starts working towards changing this score. And, I discovered on my own that the power of conversation, the power of connection leads to so much more. I think that's a strength of what you're saying here.
Yes. Well, and if we look at where the source of energy, it comes from a very counterintuitive source. Wherever you have tension, inherent to it, residing within it, is energy. Mm-hmm. You don't get to decide whether energy will be released from the tension you have with another person, another department, with your customer, but you do get to decide whether it will be generative, creative, innovative energy, or destructive, trust-sucking energy. And so what we do is we say, managers and leaders, what if you could get into the conversations with your teams and with your employees and identify some of those epic tensions that inside of them is energy that is free energy that is ready to be released. And so I'll give you an example. Some of the epic tensions that some of our viewers have right now in their organizations are centralization or decentralization. So do we hold on to control or do we just distribute control? Another one is information. Do we just send it out to everybody and overload them with it, or is it on a need-to-know basis? Are we about doing what's good for the whole, or are we about doing what's good for the individual? Well, of course, the answer, you can't be the binary, simplistic, dualistic thinker. You have to say the treasure is in the tension. And so if we can figure out in this situation, with this employee, with this team, how do we manage the tension of decentralization and centralization, information, etc.? That's where the real power is that moves this thing in a sustainable way. Mike was talking about sustainability of energy, passion, and creativity. That's where the energy source lies, with intention.
I love it. So I want to shift gears a little bit now and ask you a final question, which will segue into our closing segment. The final question is, what can the individual leader watching right now, what can the individual leader do in order to generate energy in the organization, either within him or herself or even within their team?
I'd like to start with him or herself. And one of the things that we're really clear on now, and it's one of those brain science pieces that people will find very early on in the book, is that when we are low on energy, the first thing that we lose is our executive function. Our ability to connect the dots, predict outcomes, regulate our emotions, focus in the midst of massive distractions, our ability to make great decisions, coordinate activity. Well, these are basically the power tools of value creation. They're the power tools of innovation. So if we understand that as a leader, we say, I have got to ensure that I carve out the vital few from the trivial many. And I've got to do that good work of ensuring that I'm not dissipating my energy, because I've got to have enough of the executive function so that I'm not creating quick fixes, workarounds, reactivity, because that will just create this ecosystem of depletion. So the first thing I would say is let's really get to what matters most. For us, the contribution, what is the contribution that we need to make, and let's guard that. But the second thing is we need to take a look at another part of our brain, the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and simply one is gas guzzling mode and the other is energy conservation mode. So when any one of our core driving needs, when we feel they're at risk, we're at risk of losing security or significance or belonging or freedom, our SNS will send us right into gas guzzling mode. So we need to start to learn how to get our needs met with others that we work with in skillful ways. So some of us have that instinct of suppressing our own valid needs. And in so doing, we've set ourselves up for going right into gas guzzling mode. So the first thing is, I would say, really get clear on what matters most in terms of the contribution you need to make, and be ruthless at carving out those other things. And the second thing is, learn the skills of getting your own needs met and protecting your own needs in a skillful way. Those are two big things people can do.
huge things, and I think it may even be a good topic for a future show, because I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with, how to focus on the really important stuff and not getting lost in the minutia of their day. So thank you. Yeah. Hey, before I ask everybody else what they want to work on this week to generate energy for themselves, I want to ask a final question to you, Brady, which is, what do you think of our show? The title. What do you think of the title of our show, Corporate Life is Hell?
Well, I love it because I feel like you're hitting a viral nerve that everybody can relate to, and I would say many people are experiencing. And so the only thing I would want to see is very soon, like you did, Mike, in the intro, saying the point is that you as a leader can make a massive difference. So I would just want to make sure that people see that very quickly, as opposed to Corporate Life is Hell is a place where we can all come and grouse and bitch about how horrible it is.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing my irreverence in the title, because it's also it's been my personal experience at times, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I spent 20 years in the corporate world and had amazing times,
yeah.
and it has always been great to me, and I think, you know, the solutions to the world's problems lie within large organizations that are capable of doing things that require that kind of scale. So I believe wholeheartedly in the power of the corporate world, and it makes me sad that sometimes it's not a pleasant experience, and I've dedicated my career and my life to changing that dynamic. And the title brings people in because they may have experienced it once in their life.
You know what? Yeah, maybe. Mike, maybe I could just say one thing, and this is, maybe it's grand, I don't know, but I actually believe that organizations are what is going to transform the world.
I agree.
Okay, so what we know about organizations is that they span the globe, and if we can have people starting to be able to access the full energy of their innovative capacities, we can start to build a better world. We can start to come up with some ideas that truly transform education and healthcare and government and business. I think that happens largely within organizations. Organizations that do business in the world.
Yeah. I think there's an evolution going on now with organizations that are starting to get that and changing the way that they're led. I want to ask the last question of our panel. So you've heard the conversation, and Chi, by the way, I know Chi, you've got to leave us now. We're close to finishing, but Chi, thank you very much for joining the panel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Chi.
Thank you, Brady.
Good talking with you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Bye, guys.
So Carl and Laura and myself as well, and then the viewers, if you have a comment, please do tweet it or comment. What will you do over the next couple of weeks to really generate energy for yourself and to put into practice the things that you've learned from Brady today?
Well, so for me, since I work for myself, it's tough sometimes to keep the energy up, and I've been feeling depleted lately, and so part of this is to really get back to being nurturing and self-centered on the weekends, because I've been kind of working through the weekends, and that takes a lot out of me. But also get some practices at the beginning of the day to help build my spiritual and physical and mental focus to last me through the rest of the day. So that's, I think, what I'm going to focus on is, some of those personal practices like that.
Yeah. A lot of power in ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. Laura, any thoughts from you?
I would agree to be able to have an opportunity to really focus on where you're feeling very energized in your business, but also, too, with me working with business owners that are feeling, frustrated and burned out, it really starts with you and the energy that you're bringing to your company. So just even having really those conversations to keep encouraging people to maintain high energy levels and kind of how you're showing up in the workplace.
Yeah. I know for me, I'm like Carl, I'm a solopreneur, so I spend a lot of time alone, but I also get to spend time with great leaders. As a leadership coach, I have energizing conversations all the time. Where I get into trouble is the administration and the time, sitting at my desk looking at the computer. So I've started doing something since I read Brady's book. I started implementing one thing, which is journaling. Journaling, to me, is a form of conversation with myself. It's a way of generating energy through a conversation when I'm by myself, and each morning I journal about my intentions for the day, and every evening before I go to sleep I journal about gratitude and what I'm grateful for in my life and in my workday. And I've been doing it for about 4 days now, and I think it's having an effect. It's feeling good.
Wow. Nice.
Gratitude is a powerful thing,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Well, Brady, I want to thank you again so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you here, and really appreciate you making the time to do it.
I love being with you all and with our viewers as well. So thank you so much for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Thanks, Brady.
Yeah, stick with us before, don't sign off until I've closed the show. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who was watching. We really appreciate your participation on the show. We broadcast the first and third Wednesday of every month at 12 noon Eastern Time in the U.S., so please join us. We've got a great show in 2 weeks on September 16th with Amy Ross from Conscious Capitalism. We'll be talking all about conscious capitalism and how we can look at, maybe to the point that we made at the end of this show, how we can look to business as the solution for the world's problems. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we will see you next week. See you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Okay.
Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.